Living in Oakwood Estates seemed like a dream come true when I first moved in last year. The beautiful landscaping, well-maintained common areas, and a neighborhood that looked like it came straight out of a real estate magazine made it feel perfect. What the listing agent conveniently failed to mention was that our homeowners association was ruled with an iron fist by the most notorious Karen I had ever encountered. Karen Wilkins was her name, though most residents referred to her as the HOA hawk behind her back. In her mid-50s, with the perpetual scowl and that signature highlighted bob haircut, Karen had been the HOA president for 8 consecutive years. Nobody ran against her anymore, not after what happened to the last brave soul who tried. I heard they mysteriously received violation notices every week for 6 months until they eventually sold their house and moved away. I managed to stay under Karen's radar for the first few months. I kept my lawn precisely 2.25 inches tall as per the guidelines. Never left my trash can out past 7 o'clock p.m. on collection day, and made sure my house paint remained the exact shade of gentle dove white that was approved in the community handbook. But my peaceful existence came to an abrupt end when I installed a small bird feeder in my backyard, apparently a cardinal sin in Karen's rulebook. Excuse me, but that bird feeder is not on the approved list of outdoor accessories, Karen said with a clipped tone. One Saturday morning, appearing at my fence line like some sort of HOA-summoned apparition, it's attracting unwanted wildlife and creating a nuisance. You'll need to remove it immediately. I explained politely that the feeder was actually designed to attract only small songbirds and had a mechanism to prevent squirrels from accessing it. Plus, it was barely visible from any common area. I've reviewed the bylaws, Karen, and there's nothing specifically prohibiting bird feeders of this size and type, I replied with a calm smile. Her eyes narrowed as if I had just spoken in tongues. Well, I'll have to bring this up at the next board meeting, she huffed, clearly not used to residents who actually read the rulebook. She wielded like a weapon. We'll see what the architectural committee has to say about this unauthorized installation. That was just the beginning. After our bird feeder encounter, I found myself on Karen's watch list. She would drive by my house slowly, several times a day, notepad in hand, looking for any violation she could document. When she couldn't find any legitimate issues, she began sending me notices for imaginary infractions. A hose not properly coiled, a barely visible cobweb on my front porch, the wrong type of mulch in my flower beds. I handled each notice professionally, responding with photographic evidence and citing the exact language from the HOA regulations that proved I complied. This seemed to infuriate Karen even more, as she was used to residents either immediately complying or ignoring her notices, which would lead to fines. My methodical responses meant she couldn't issue any penalties, and I could almost see the steam coming out of her ears. At each board meeting I attended. The situation escalated dramatically last month when I was diagnosed with a chronic condition that required daily medication. Nothing life-threatening, thankfully, but important to manage consistently. My insurance company shipped my prescriptions directly to my home, which was convenient, since the nearest pharmacy was a 30-minute drive away and my work schedule was quite demanding. The delivery was scheduled for a Tuesday, and I had arranged to work from home that day specifically to receive it. Around noon, I stepped into my home office for an important video conference that I couldn't reschedule. Through my office window, I saw the delivery truck arrive, and the driver placed the package at my doorstep. Perfect timing, I thought, planning to retrieve it as soon as my meeting ended. My video conference ran longer than expected, about 45 minutes. When I finally ended the call and went to grab my package, I was surprised to find nothing at my door. At first, I thought perhaps the driver had placed it near my garage or by the side entrance. After searching all possible drop-off locations and finding nothing, I checked my delivery notification again. It clearly showed delivered at 12:07 p.m., with the photo of the package sitting at my front door. Confused and concerned, I decided to check my doorbell camera footage, and there it was, the smoking gun. At 12:23 p.m., Karen marched up to my porch, looked directly at my doorbell camera with a disapproving frown, and picked up my package. She examined the label, tucked it under her arm, and walked off my property with my medication. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Had she really just stolen my package in broad daylight, and on camera, no less? I watched the footage 3 times to make sure I wasn't misinterpreting something, but there was no mistaking it. Karen had deliberately taken a delivery that clearly had my name and address on it. My first instinct was to walk over to her house and confront her, but I decided to handle this strategically. This wasn't about a bird feeder or the color of my mulch. This was theft of prescription medication, which I was pretty sure crossed the line from petty HOA tyranny into actual criminal territory. So instead, I called the non-emergency police line to report the theft, explaining that I had video evidence of who took it. An officer named Rodriguez arrived about an hour later. He was professional and took my statement seriously, especially after viewing the doorbell footage. "That's pretty clear evidence," he remarked, raising his eyebrows. "And you said this is prescription medication?" "Yes, officer." I confirmed the package was clearly labeled as a pharmacy delivery. It contained controlled medications that I need daily. Officer Rodriguez informed me that stealing prescription medication was not just regular theft, it could potentially be classified as a felony, depending on the type of medication. "I'll need to speak with Mrs. Wilkins," he explained. "Would you like to come along? Or would you prefer I handle this separately?" I decided to go with him. I wasn't about to miss Karen's reaction when confronted by actual law enforcement instead of her make-believe HOA police force. Karen's face when she opened her door to find a uniformed officer standing beside me was absolutely priceless. Her expression cycled rapidly from annoyance to confusion to poorly concealed panic. "Miss Wilkins," Officer Rodriguez began formally, "I'm here regarding a package that was delivered to this gentleman's residence earlier today. Do you know anything about that?" "I don't know what you're talking about," Karen replied with an indignant tone, crossing her arms defensively, but her eyes darted briefly toward her living room, where I could see a small stack of mail and packages on a side table. "Ma'am, we have video evidence showing you removing a package from this resident's doorstep without permission," the officer continued calmly. "That package contained prescription medication. Taking someone else's prescription medication is a serious offense." Karen's facade began to crack. "Well, I'm the HOA president, and we've had problems with packages being stolen in the neighborhood," she stammered, her voice rising an octave. "I was just keeping it safe until he got home. I was planning to drop it off later." "Is that why you didn't leave a note explaining you'd taken it for safekeeping?" I interjected. "Or send me a text? You have my number for HOA communications," Officer Rodriguez asked pointedly. "May I see the package, please?" Realizing she was cornered, Karen reluctantly retrieved my medication package from her living room. The seal was broken. I noticed it immediately. When Officer Rodriguez pointed this out, Karen's explanation grew even more convoluted. "I just wanted to make sure it was actually his," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "There have been mix-ups with deliveries before. I was protecting the community." Officer Rodriguez was not impressed. "Opening someone else's mail or packages is another federal offense, Miss Wilkins, and interfering with prescription medication delivery is particularly serious." Karen's face had gone from red to ghostly white. This was clearly not how she had expected her day to go when she decided to confiscate my package. After a few more questions, Officer Rodriguez explained that I had several options, including pressing formal charges for mail theft and tampering with the prescription medication delivery. The potential consequences he outlined included substantial fines and possibly even jail time, depending on how the district attorney wanted to proceed. Karen's eyes widened with each word. This wasn't an HOA fine she could dismiss with her presidential authority. This was real-world legal trouble with real-world consequences. When Officer Rodriguez mentioned that interfering with delivery of certain types of medication could result in felony charges carrying up to 5 years in prison, I thought Karen might actually faint. "I didn't know it was medication," she whispered. All pretense of authority now completely evaporated. I truly was just trying to prevent package theft, but her story had too many holes. Why hadn't she contacted me? Why had she opened the clearly labeled medical package? And why was this the first time she'd ever protected one of my deliveries? Despite the numerous packages I'd received since moving in the end, I decided to press charges not out of vindictiveness, but because Karen's behavior had crossed a line that couldn't be ignored. Officer Rodriguez handcuffed her right there on her perfectly maintained front porch, reading her rights as neighbors peeked out from behind blinds and curtains. "Karen Wilkins, you're under arrest for mail theft and tampering with the prescription medication delivery," he announced formally, as he guided her toward his patrol car. The emergency HOA board meeting called the following week was the most well-attended in the community's history. As Karen's case made its way through the legal system, she faced a $10,000 fine and was immediately removed from her position as HOA president. The stunned expression on her face as the unanimous vote was announced, a vote that included several board members who had been her loyal supporters for years, made it clear that the reality of her situation had finally sunk in. Her 8-year reign of neighborhood terror had ended, not with a bureaucratic whimper, but with the bang of a judge's gavel.